Hello, Sociology. Today we did the Bobo Doll 2 days ago, Lake Wobegon. Yes, well, the last day that we had. Today, I think we're actually going to split up language acquisition. It's such a big topic. We're going to split Coco and Genie in 2 different days. So we'll do Genie today and Coco the gorilla next day, which will be Thursday. We kind of had a weird day. This right here was supposed to be on Friday, but because of Easter stuff, it has been moved to Tuesday. Although you're getting this on Monday, and I'm recording it on Sunday. But you'll get this Monday morning, or probably actually Sunday night. But it won't be due until Tuesday, the 14th, I think, at 9 p.m. So both these days we're going to talk about language and communication, and what that actually means, and what is required in getting that. So we will talk about that for 2 days. We're gonna have a quiz here soon, do norms, surveys, and then review for the final, and that'll be it. But I'm gonna have, I think it's a 15-minute video that I'll have you watch, and I definitely don't want to put it in this video because YouTube would be very upset about that. So that's gonna be a separate video. There'll be this video and the other video about Genie Wiley, which you'll watch. And then we'll kind of talk about that and have some questions, and that'll be it for today. So the two things I want to talk about today are communication and language. So to start off, if I was in class, I would ask you, how many of you have a pet of some sort, like a dog, cat, even fish, really, you can communicate with? And can you communicate with those people, those animals? Like with our dog, we have to spell out the word. We can't say the word walk out loud. We have to spell, go on a W-A-L-K, or else our dog will know what we're talking about, walk, and start going. And in our case, I've heard it said that dogs maybe don't understand language, but they just understand inflection. So if you're like, yeah, you want a treat? Then your dog could get excited thinking it's a treat. I don't believe that. I do think dogs know words, because my dog, even if you just say that word, the T-R-E-A-T, treat word, the walk word, what else? Oh, ride. There's a number of words that you could say that would really perk up my dog, and she'd know exactly what was going to happen. Or food, sort of. Shit, that's not that exciting. Outside. But all these things, she knows definitely what those mean. So, can you communicate with the dog, and does dog know language? And are those the same thing or different things? And that's what we're going to talk about in the next 2 days. So, let me make these words a little bigger. Wink. Communication and language. So, there are two instances. One we'll talk about tomorrow with a gorilla. Today, in the 1970s, I think it was the 70s, there was a girl that was found, just a very bizarre situation. I don't remember what state it was in. It was in the United States. Genie Wiley. The Wileys, husband and wife, had 2 children, a son and a daughter. And I don't even know why. But for whatever reason, they raised the son like normal, and the daughter they kept in complete isolation. Like Harry Potter, I guess, where he was kept underneath the staircase, except worse than that, because they didn't even talk to the daughter at all. They found her when she was 13, and she had been stuck in a room of the house, never spoken a word of English to. She couldn't even go to the bathroom. She couldn't leave the room at all. In fact, they had like a bucket for her to go to the bathroom in. At night, they would put her in essentially a dog crate at night. They'd feed her enough food that she had food, but she was still malnourished. But they gave her food. They just didn't talk to her. So which is just on top of being inhumane, it's just weird. Is there people that kill and now we're getting really morbid, but there are people that kill their children. That happens, unfortunately, a lot. But nobody keeps their child alive and doesn't interact with their child. On top of being horrible, it's just it enters a whole new territory of just odd. But very unfortunately for Genie, but interestingly for science, which sometimes happens, there's unethical science experiments, although this wasn't an experiment on purpose, but it did let us kind of differentiate between these two and ask a lot of questions that we've been thinking about these two, and sort of a thing that has more to do with psychology than sociology, but a thing called critical period. So there's this idea of critical periods, and the idea of a critical period is there's this ideal point of time to learn something, and if you don't learn it then it's either impossible or more difficult to learn it later. So like learning a second language. You all in high school are attempting to learn a second language, and you definitely still can, but basically the earlier you learn a language, the easier it is to learn. So if you learn a language in elementary school or before, and as you're learning English, if you're also learning Spanish, it's going to be way easier to learn, one, and two, you'll be less likely to develop an accent. And most people learn to walk at a similar age, but if you are kept from learning to walk, can you still learn afterwards? And no one really knew that because there was never really an example of that happening. But then comes Genie. So Genie had never really been taught to walk, to talk, anything. Nothing. She was a feral child, feral meaning wild. Like it's almost like she was raised by wolves, except worse, because at least the wolves would interact with her in some way. And these humans that raised her didn't even interact with her. So they found her when she was about 13. And then scientists took her and tried to teach her things. So I'm going to have you, here in a second, I'm going to have you pause this video and go to the other video. It's about a 12-minute video with Genie from, I think, TLC. Watch that, then you come back to here and I'll finish up. And then we'll have some questions about language and communication. But first of all, do you think that people can communicate with Genie? Like, can you convey anything to Genie at all? Could you tell her to move from one spot to another spot? And does communication necessarily mean words? Or can communication mean anything? Can you communicate with your dog? It seems like it, because I can tell my dog that food's about to come by saying the word food. Or if I have an excited look on my face, I can rile my dog up. And it doesn't even have to be language necessarily, but what's the difference between communication and language, first of all? And second, do you think this 13-year-old girl who has never learned English will be able to learn words? So think about that before we watch the video. Because there's an answer to that question, which you'll find out. So think, will this girl be able to learn the English language or not? Because she missed her critical period. And after you watch that, I'm going to have some questions about communication, language, and Genie specifically. And then tomorrow we will talk about Coco the gorilla, who was one of the smart. They attempted to teach this gorilla sign language, and then again the question comes up: what's the difference between communication and language? Can you teach this gorilla language with sign language, American Sign Language? And that's it. So right now, I guess actually you don't need to pause it because this video is going to be over, but go ahead and watch the video that is linked to Genie Wiley, and then you will fill up the questions. And that'll be it. I'll see you next time.